Hello everybody, welcome to this talk on plagiarism. So what we're going to do here is explore the DIT's rules and regulations about plagiarism. Plagiarism, according to DIT General Assessment Regulations, and you can see it up here on the screen, it's the intentionally or unintentionally passing off other people's work as your own. This includes the using of other people's ideas, information presented or accessed either in visual or audio format, and asking or paying for other people to produce work on your behalf. So this is a quite clear articulation. It's either intentional or unintentional. If you say, ooh, I accidentally plagiarized, that has no defense in terms of our processes. That's not to say that you shouldn't be producing material, reading other people's work, exploring other people's ideas, looking at TED Talks, looking at videos, looking at research papers. We want you to do that, and that's the core and the heart of academic life, that you explore other people's ideas. But we also want you to sincerely cite and correctly reference all the content that you found from other people. And that's really strong academically when you do that. If you don't do that and pretend that you thought of these ideas yourself when they were other people's ideas, then lo and behold, you lose out on marks that you could have got for citation or referencing. So just to be clear on that, we're not trying to catch people out or anything like that. The purpose of the policy is to ensure you adhere to correct academic standards, because we really want you to do this in the correct way. So let me think about ways that scenarios for you, what kinds of situations do plagiarism occur in? The obvious one is if I just cut and paste text from another source and stick it into an assignment or a dissertation of mine without acknowledging the source. If I do that, then that is definitely plagiarism. If I cut and paste the text but just put a citation in at the end, then that is definitely plagiarism as well. If I cut and paste the text and put it in italics and add a citation in the end, it's still plagiarism. The only way it's not plagiarism is if I cut and paste the text, put it in italics and put quotation marks around it. So the reason they're called quotation marks is to indicate it's a quotation. If I put quote marks around, or inverted commas as you might call them, then I'm indicating this is a quote. So if I put quotation marks around it and have a citation at the end, then we're not committing plagiarism. We're citing and quoting correctly. If I take the author's sentences and just change a few words here and there, can for may or would for could or things like that, and don't acknowledge the source, that is definitely plagiarism still. Even though it's not the exact same text, it's the same concepts and content in terms of ideas. And similarly, even if I could change a few words and put a citation at the end, it's still plagiarism because you're passing off as if you wrote this and you're adding a citation at the end. What a citation means without quotation marks is I've read this work and I'm presenting their ideas in my own words. So if you're just changing a few words here and there, that's definitely still plagiarism. The opposite of that might be if you restated an author's ideas in your own words, which is great, but forgot to cite stuff. That is still definitely plagiarism. So what you want to do is restate the author's views and then add your citation in the end. Then you're sorted, then you're grand, then you're doing correct academic practice. It is definitely most important to do this. So it's most important when you're quoting to put in the text in italics and put quotation marks around it and add the citation at the end. If you're restating their ideas in your own words, just to make sure that you put the citation in at the end. I think it's much more interesting to hear your interpretation of things than hear a quote from somebody else. If you're taking a quote from a book or something like that, we can read that book or we can read that website. Whereas if you're stating them in your own words, we get to understand your interpretation of them and how particularly this reading plays on your assignment or what it's got to do with your research. So that's much more preferable for us. And that highlights also that you're undertaking the correct kind of academic exercises. I think it's an awful waste of time to be plagiarizing because it's your loss, honestly. It is your loss. If you plagiarize and then you get away with it, you've wasted an opportunity that could be a good learning experience. My own view as a lecturer is when I go into class, when I teach things, when I do assessments, I'm just creating learning opportunities for the students. It's up to them to take them or not. Some students get very actively engaged in some topics and do really well in them. Other topics you think, well, I just need a general understanding of that. That's your choice. In a third level institute, it is your decision how much activity, how much engagement you want to get into each topics. But don't ever deny yourself a learning opportunity. Don't ever think that taking a shortcut will be beneficial, because you're going to get a job. If you get a qualification in something that they expect you to know about and you don't know how to do it, you're going to lose your job quite quickly. It's not a situation where it's us against you. It's not like secondary school maybe, where it's the students against the teachers. We're all here to learn together. So you are really disadvantaging yourself by attempting to plagiarize. Anyway, we think it's really important that you cite and learn to cite correctly and really engage in academic practice in a good way. I would say as well that if you do get caught, the consequences can be so significant that it's as well not to bother. Because if you do get caught, there will be extremely serious consequences that we'll talk about subsequently. As part of my role of project coordinator for both our undergraduate degrees and our master's courses, anytime a student is caught plagiarizing, I have an interview with them, and I've collected over the years some of the reasons they've given for why they did plagiarize, and really it's some of the excuses as to why they plagiarized. So the first one is the worst, I think. People who say, well, I didn't really think I was doing it, or I didn't realize I was doing it. And that's why in the regulations we mentioned, it says either intentionally or unintentionally. So if you accidentally copied, that's your responsibility. Maybe you need to put your assignments through SafeAssign or some plagiarism detection software to check if you've accidentally plagiarized or not. Really though, what I find is sometimes students do cut and paste text, and then later on they'll mean to rewrite it in their own words. What I recommend they normally do is just colour that text red so that you'll know it's text that needs to be worked on, but never leave a quote in without indicating to you either to add a citation in at the end and put in quotation marks, or rewrite it in your own words. And I think colouring the text is a very easy way to remind yourself to do that. Sometimes students have said, when two students submit the same assignment, that they were doing a group project but forgot to tell me. So if you're doing a group project but forget to tell me about it, then you are committing plagiarism. So if you're doing a group project, tell me about it, and then we can negotiate how each student can do their own bit on it. Whereas if you just submit the exact same piece of material twice, that's a problem in terms of how to mark it. Some students are so afraid, I think, of finding their own voice that they copy because they think, well, other people have said it so well. Why can't I want to use their words because I don't think I could say it as well as them. The reality of the situation is there are some writers that are excellent in the way they express things. We don't want you to be an excellent writer in the way you express things. We just want you to do a good job on it. We want to hear your words. We've already read what the key researchers in this area feel like. We've read their quotes. We know what they want. Now we want to hear how you understand things, how you wish to express it. And even if you express it in terrible English, in terribly ill-formed ideas, it's your work, it's your ideas, it's your understanding and interpretation of other people's work. So we get very excited reading that. And as a lecturer, it's a real joy to hear your voice when I'm reading assignments, because otherwise it's just the same assignment over and over again I'm correcting. Whereas when I hear somebody express it from their point of view, I get very excited and enjoy reading those assignments a lot more. I'm engaging with somebody through the assignment then. Some students do say that they intended to include citations but ran out of time. And I think that excuse probably would have worked until recently, but now with the advent of so many good bibliographical software tools like EndNote or Zotero or Reference Manager, it's really hard to accept that anymore. Even using Excel and to put all your references in there. Again, as I said before, what I would recommend is put in the references straight away first and then start writing the text afterwards. As soon as you've found references, stick them all in your document, and then you won't even have to worry about that at all. Some students have said to me, well, I showed this assignment or dissertation to my examiner and they didn't point out I'd plagiarized, so it's not fair that I'm being caught now, even though I wasn't being caught by my examiner. So as we said in the assessment regulations, it is your responsibility, nobody else's responsibility. You could show your assignment or dissertation to anybody else, we don't care, and they might say it's the greatest thing since sliced pizza. It does not matter. When you submit it for marking, that is your responsibility to ensure that it is not plagiarized. The final one, which I always think is funny, is I didn't think I'd get caught. Some students have said this to me, oh, I didn't think I'd get caught, that's why I plagiarized, which is fun and stupid. So it's stupid because your lecturers have a vast amount of experience in the discipline that they're teaching you in. They know a lot more about this topic. They've been reading the books, the websites, the research papers, everything for a lot longer than you have. So if you're able to find a paper or a book or something that they haven't found, that's a hell of an achievement, and you will get caught. And the consequences are so serious, because if you do get caught, the General Assessment Regulations state the penalties can include failure of the entire year, suspension for any number of years, typically 2 or 3 years, or expulsion from the institute and never being allowed back in the DIT again. So we don't want you to do that. The citation, because I'm talking about citation referencing, I want to show you the citation for the General Assessment Regulations is here, and you can see it's in correct APA format. What I want to do now is suggest 2 activities for you guys to think about. The first activity goes as follows. Imagine if you did plagiarize. Who do you think would be impacted by that? And I want you to spend a minute thinking about that, and let's pause the video down here and let's think about that. I'm going to suggest you, your lecturer or supervisor, maybe the year mentor, the course coordinator, your family, your parents, everybody, your friends, the plagiarism panel that will have to be convened. So I want you to think about as many people as you can who will be impacted if you did plagiarize. Then I want you to say a phrase or a sentence that each of them would say if they found out that you had been caught plagiarizing. I'll give you a few examples. So let's say you would say, oops, I'm in trouble now. Your lecturer or supervisor would say, I'm absolutely gutted that you did that. Think about what your parents might say. Think about what your classmates might say. Think about what your course coordinator and year mentor might say. Think about what the plagiarism panel that will have to be convened especially for you would say in a sentence or a phrase because of your mistake. A second activity I'd like you guys to consider doing is the following. Go and find the Father Ted episode, A Song for Europe, and take a look at it. Look at the whole episode. Then when you finish, come back and look at the rest of this video. There's 3 scenes that I think are crucial in that episode of A Song for Europe. The first one is where Ted and Dougal are discussing their entry and the music that they're going to use for their Eurovision entry. And Ted is saying, oh, it would be a nice tribute to the band if we use their music, but we won't tell anyone. And I think when people do plagiarize, they are a mixture of Dougal and Ted. They're as dumb as Dougal and as sneaky as Ted. And that scene where Ted convinces Dougal to use the music from another band is exactly like what you will convince yourself to do. Now think about the scene just before Dougal and Ted are going to go on stage, where Ted has been in the lift, he's heard that music is well known and it's been played in the elevator. That's what you're going to be like right before your presentation or your submission of that assignment, because you're going to be thinking, oh God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And that's what you'll be thinking about, just like what Ted was. And then think about the very closing credits of that Father Ted episode, because you will get nil point, null point, no marks if you do plagiarize. So please, please conform to academic standards. Thank you very much.